Hello and welcome. In this session, we're going to go over how to solve for quantity dispensed and day supply. We're also going to incorporate solving for dose within these problems. Quantity dispensed is very important in the pharmacy setting. We are going to have to calculate that on a regular basis. Now, in order to calculate a quantity dispensed, it is important to know your SIG codes and your conversion factors. Quantity dispensed is signified by this equation. My dose times my frequency times my duration. That's going to equal the quantity dispensed. Now my dose is either going to be the number of tablets or the number of mLs or the number of capsules, and that's for one single dose. My frequency is how many times per day, and my duration is going to be for my number of days. When we multiply all those numbers together, we're going to get an accurate quantity dispensed. Now let's take a look at a sample problem. We're going to start out with a sample problem for tablets. When we see this QS, that's a SIG code meaning quantity sufficient. When we see a prescription written out, we always have our drug strength, and our drug form. The drug form is how it comes. That could be tablets, capsules, or liquid. Now here I have my dose. My dose here is 1 tablet. My QID is 4 times a day, and that's my frequency. And I have my duration. So if I follow my equation, my dose, which is 1 tablet, times my frequency, which is 4 times a day, times the amount of days is 10, so 1 times 4 times 10 is a quantity dispensed of 40 tablets. Let's look at that again. So I have clindamycin 500 milligram capsules. Take 2 by mouth BID, which is 2 times a day, for 14 days. It says how many capsules should be dispensed. So I have my dose, which is 2 capsules at a frequency of 2 times a day for 14 days. And I come out with a quantity dispensed of 56 capsules. So that's how you do a quantity dispensed for tablets or capsules. Now let's take a look at what it's going to look like for liquids. Now liquids are a little bit different. We have our drug and we have our strength and our form written as so. It's 250 milligrams / 5 mLs. This means that for every 5 milliliters the patient is going to receive, they are going to get 250 milligrams of medication in that 5 mLs. Now another thing that we have to remember is that they're going to be writing the dosaging most of the time in teaspoons. However, when we are working in the pharmacy, we are always going to dispense in milliliters. Therefore, we have to do a conversion here before we can actually set up our equation. So we have step 1, we're going to convert. So step 1, we're going to convert teaspoons to mLs. Now when I look at the conversion factors in my book, I have 5 mLs is equal to 1 teaspoon. So let's go ahead and set up this conversion. We're going to go ahead and do a proportion. So I know that there's 5 mLs to 1 teaspoon, which means that X ml is to 2 teaspoons. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. I get 1 times X is X, 2 times 5 is 10 mLs. So 10 mLs is now my dose. Step 2, I'm going to go ahead and solve. I'm going to set up my equation. So I have my dose of 10 mLs times my duration of 3 times a day for 10 days. So 10 times 3 is 30 times 10. I'm going to go ahead and dispense 300 mLs for this specific prescription. Let's take a look at that one more time. So I have for this prescription Augmentin 500 milligrams per 5 ml. I'm going to take 3 teaspoons by mouth twice a day for 7 days. So step 1, I'm going to go ahead and convert. Now I know that 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 mLs, which means 3 teaspoons is the same as X ml. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply, and I get X is equal to 15 mLs. So that 15 mLs is now my dose. Step 2, I'm going to set up my equation and solve. So I have my dose of 15 mLs times 2 times a day for 7 days. So I have 15 times 2, which is 30, times 7 is equal to 210 mLs for my quantity dispensed for this prescription. Now these are very straightforward quantity dispense equation. They give us our dose in teaspoons. We have to convert to mLs. Now let's take a look at what's going to happen. Now they're giving us the strength that's available to us, and they're giving the dosage in milligrams that we want. So what we have to do here is we actually have to go ahead and now solve for a dose to find out how many mLs is given per dose, and then we can set up our equation to solve for my quantity dispense. So for step 1, we now have to solve for a dose. So I know from this medication there's 1,000 milligrams to 5 mLs. The prescription is only calling for 500 milligrams, and that's going to be contained in XML. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply, and I have 1,000x is equal to 2,500. I'm going to divide both sides by 1,000 to get x by itself, and I get x is equal to 2.5 ml. And now the 2.5 is now my dose. Now step 2 is not going to change from the previous problem. Now we're going to set up the equation and solve. So my dose here is 2.5 ml. My frequency is 3 times a day for 10 days. So 2.5 times 3 is 7.5 times 10 is 75 mLs. The quantity dispensed for this particular prescription is 75 milliliters. Let's take a look at that one more time. So for this particular prescription, it says clindamycin 150 milligrams per 5 ml. Take 300 milligrams by mouth twice a day for 21 days. So step 1 here, I'm going to go ahead and solve for my dose. So I know that what's available to me is 150 milligrams per 5 ml. The prescription calls for 300 milligrams, and that's going to be contained in XML. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply, and I have 1,500 is equal to 150x. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 150, and I come out to x is equal to 10 mLs. Step 2, I'm going to go ahead and set up my equation and solve. So I have my dose of 10 mLs at 2 times a day for 21 days. So I have 10 times 2 times 21 will give me a quantity dispensed of 420 milliliters. That's an overview of quantity dispensed for both liquids and tablets. Now let's take a look at what day supply is going to look like. Okay, day supply is illustrated by the equation of quantity dispensed divided by dose times my frequency. Now dose is either the number of tablets and the number of capsules, or the number of mLs, depending upon what type of drug formulation we're looking at. Our frequency is how many times per day. So let's take a look at this particular problem. We're going to look at tablets first. It says Xanax 0.25 milligram tablets. Take 2 by mouth every 4 to 6 hours as needed. One thing that's different here is that I have a range. When we're calculating a day's supply in a pharmacy, we automatically assume that the patient will take the maximum amount of dosage allowed by the physician, which means it has to be the highest dose and the highest frequency available. Now for this particular problem, since the range is in hours, if I have a 24 hours in a day and I'm dividing it every 4-hour time span, that's 6 times a day. Now if I would have chosen 6 times, so it's 24 hours over 6-hour time span, that's only 4 times a day. So we're going to assume that the patient is going to get this at a frequency of 6 times a day. So I go ahead and set this up. So I have 90 tablets divided by 2 times 6. So essentially that comes to 90 divided by 12. So 90 divided by 12 gives me 7.5 days. Now here's the thing in pharmacy. When we go ahead and enter a day supply into the computer system, we can't use decimals. So what we do is we always round down for a day supply for insurance purposes, because if I rounded it up to 8, they do not have enough medication to last 8 full days. So we only have enough medication to last the patient 7 full days. Let's take a look at another example. So here's another one with capsules. This one's a little bit more basic. So it says, how many days will this prescription last? I have a quantity dispensed of 30 capsules divided by my dose, which is 1, at a frequency of 3 times a day. So this essentially becomes 30 divided by 3. So this one is a 10-day supply. Let's take a look at day supply when it comes to liquids. I have diphenhydramine 12.5 milligrams per 5 ml. Take 2 teaspoons by mouth every 8 hours as needed. Dispense 600 milligrams. So again, just like when we figure out our quantity dispensed, it's always going to be in ml. So here I have teaspoons. So I'm going to divide this into 2 steps. So step 1, I'm going to convert. I'm going to convert my teaspoons to mLs. So I already know that 1 teaspoon is to 5 mLs, as 2 teaspoons is to x ml. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply, and I have x is equal to 10 mLs, and that's 10 mLs per my dose. Step 2 is I'm going to go ahead and solve for my day supply. I have a quantity dispensed of 600 mLs over my dose, which is 10, times my frequency. Now my frequency is every 8 hours. That is not 8 times a day. If I have a 24-hour time period over my 8-hour time span, 24 divided by 8 is 3. So that's at 3 times a day. So I essentially have 600 divided by 30, which gives me a 20-day supply. So that's how you would do day supply for liquids. That actually concludes this video. If you have any questions regarding any of this content, please contact an academic coach at coach@ultimatemedical.edu. Thank you for joining me.